stronger together. We are stronger together.
The one thing I learned. Lessons for life.
Welcome to the One Thing I Learned podcast, where every week I ask someone who's been important in my life, in my journey through this life, and ask them what is the one lesson they would pass on to their younger selves or the next generation. And in this instance, I'm talking with my mum, Kristine Uttley, obviously a huge hero of mine. Mum had an amazing life. She was recently diagnosed with cancer and is in recovery at the moment. She also has had to deal with MS. She's been a head mistress of St John's Middle School in Stanmore for many, many years. And I sat down with her to understand a little bit about her life and the lesson she would pass on.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Picking just one. However, I think the one that I think is the most useful, particularly with the world as it is now, would be stronger together. We are stronger together. When we are travelling through our world, our life, we're in all sorts of different situations. We travel through from being a baby, and we're learning how to grow and develop and absorb all the things that our parents and siblings wish to teach us, or maybe not even wish to teach us. But we absorb all of that, and we travel through, and we're supported by that. But as we go to school, we're in classes, we pick up all sorts of skills through sport, through activities, through singing, through being together, working, solving problems together. And that is really, in my view, what kind of thing happens in life. We know, or we think we know, where we might want to go and how we get there. But we often are finding ourselves in situations where there's a challenge or there's a problem to be solved. How do we do that? And yes, we can study, we can read around, we can find all sorts of different bits of information from wherever about whatever it is we want to know to get us there. But if we work with other people, we watch them, we observe them, and we see how they might solve the problem, we might find a solution for ourselves. Or it might lead us to an adaptation of that. But it's very powerful, that ability to absorb and see all the things that other people can offer who have good skills.
So, just before we go, you're talking quite a lot here, so let me cut it. Yeah, so
it's a habit.
So, to unpack the lesson, we're stronger together. Give me a little bit about the context of where you are in life at the moment and some of the stages you may have been through.
Well, currently at the moment, I'm in less of a position to be in charge of anything except myself. But I have been through what I would consider to be quite a challenging situation in the last year and a bit really, where I was diagnosed with cancer, and that led to all sorts of soul searching, if you like. It wasn't the worst kind of thing. I didn't fill me with dread, and one of the reasons why it didn't was because there were a lot of people around me that were there to help in all sorts of different ways. And one of the strong ways and immediate ways was all the family and grandchildren in particular, and the positivity that was there. And I was able to draw on that. And I think this was a situation where I was being given things from other people. And I was having to take, whereas I think in the past, in circumstances that I've been in, I've had to give more. And I suppose in a way that was one of the things I found more challenging in the situation, that you're a little bit in the back seat. You're part of it, but in the back seat. But with the support from the help, of the family, that really buoyed me up, and particularly in weaker moments, if you like. But it's also extended to the team of all the surgeons, the oncologists, hematologists, radiologists, all of those, nurses, and their knowledge that I haven't got about all of those things, to be able to work together to find the right treatment for me and to make it work. And at the end of the year, to find that it's all been very successful. It couldn't have happened without that team. And so that team was really what I was full of admiration for, and gratefulness, if you like, because they were practicing a lot of their knowledge that they'd used before, but applying it in a different way, because everybody's different in the way that you react.
Okay, so the very long-winded answers. So the stages of your life are you've had cancer and you're treating through that, and you've got lots of grandkids. You're in your 70s. You're retired. You're also dealing with MS. Tell me the stage. Just give me the context of where you are in life at the minute, in a slightly shorter way, please.
At the minute, I am retired. I'm in my past mid-70s. I can't remember where I've been. I'm just at the end of a year of dealing with cancer.
Yeah, and you've got 2 sons. Me being one, your favourite, obviously.
Yes. I have 2 sons, 2 daughters-in-law, and 4 grandchildren, all of whom have unique talents and strengths.
We're better together. Where do you think you learnt that? Who did you learn it from, do you think? Or was it just something you picked up along the way?
I think it's something that I learned to an extent on the way in earlier days, but then it became much more conscious. And certainly when I became a head teacher, that was when it was really brought home to me, because of course you've got a staff to bring together, children, all sorts of learning situations, and then tragedies occur in those circumstances. There are high-powered, successful situations, and all of them, I would say, came from working together, being supportive, learning from each other.
Yeah. And is there somebody that's embodied that? Was there someone you've looked up to that you thought, that they sort of were a great leader and that showed it? Or were there examples where people didn't come together and were weaker because of it?
Yes. Well, I think to extent, one person is my husband, really, who's a rugby player, and I felt I've always admired his leadership role and the ability to step in when needed as well, which was a great quality. And he's certainly done that for me all through this last year. So that's been tremendous. But I think in terms of situations in school, I can think of mainly when there's been a big performance that's being developed and brought together, and you rely on a number of skills of members of staff, children's abilities, but that has always ended up with a very high-powered performance that's taken people forward in their lives or whatever, things that they can draw on, hopefully. In more tragic circumstances, I've seen people really come together. When we had a child who had cancer, a more serious kind than I'd had, he had been denied access to the school that I took over. But when I took over, he was accepted. We brought him into the school community. And
Why was he not accepted?
I'm not quite sure. I think the previous head had wanted to protect something I couldn't understand really, but she wanted to protect the rest of the children from the upset that might occur. of having to cope with a child who I suppose, if I'm being blunt, may die, which unfortunately did happen after 3 years with us. But he came into school and was tremendous, a real inspiration to everybody. And all of the school, the children, really worked at making him feel welcome and part of everything. We had special events to raise money for cancer. We did all sorts of different things involving a celebrity who came, and a very special musical event was produced for that. The parents came into line, and then sadly, unfortunately, when we lost him, it was deeply, deeply upsetting. But we had to deal with it, and the children were terrific. The school, when he was there, was the best place anybody could ever be, and it taught me that when you are there together, supporting, that is what life's about, really.
Yeah, so this boy who had cancer and had been excluded from the school, you sort of brought in, and he actually made everyone's life better, despite...
He did. He was a really happy boy. He wanted to be buried in school, in the grounds.
To haunt you, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. And how do you think it, if you learn that sort of skill or lesson early, to have the courage to rely on others and support others when you can, how do you think that can help you in life?
Well, there are very few times in your life when you're, solely on your own, particularly when you're younger and you're moving forward. The loneliness, I think, might come in a later stage in your life, and I'm not there yet. But I think if you can work with people, start to recognize other people's strengths, as you say, rely on them and use their ideas, their thoughts, finding ways of working together. You've got maybe a problem to solve. It could be one that's work-related. How do you do that? I remember when we were bringing new staff together, one of the ways that I did was we needed some new kitchen furniture, and I think the staff were a little bit horrified when I suggested that we bought some flat pack kitchen cupboards and things like that. But I arranged the group so that they were working with people they never worked before, and there was so much laughter and enjoyment, real solutions, and from that day on, people were really open to trusting each other working, and it was a simple thing, didn't cost a huge amount, but it was great fun. We got a good kitchen out of it, but really members of staff who were willing to work together and see things in a different way, because that's one of the other things about the power of being together, I think. Not being afraid of trusting somebody, allowing them to take the lead when necessary. It's quite an ability for people to do sometimes, like me especially.
Yeah. Good. And so that's the one thing you learned. We're stronger together.
I think so. Yes, I think feeling part of it, and I certainly felt it hugely. I'll tell you a moment when I felt it very strongly, not that long ago, and that was when I went into for some radiotherapy that I was having, and I had to go into these huge machines, these vast, absolutely amazing. I don't even know what they were called, but I've forgotten the name now. But you went in, and they gave you a particular measurement, a dose of very specific radiotherapy into my leg, as it happened to be. But this machine was like something for outer space, and it moved around in a very particular way. I found it quite moving, and there was a radiographer, very young, and I said, "How privileged am I to be able to have access to this machine?" And he said, "How privileged am I to be helping people to have a good life, a healthy life, and to be planning things. And he said, I absolutely love my job. And that's what we want to do, get people in their element. Where do they want to be in life? And if we can achieve that through life, and it doesn't mean happiness all the time. It can be joy, it can be sadness, it can be misery at times. But by being there as a unit, you achieve it.
Well, that's part of it, isn't it? People talk about mental health and they think that that means being happy the whole time. But no one's happy the whole time.
No.
It's not realistic.
No.
Actually, you've got to, you build strength through tougher times and actually learn a lot about yourself when you're failing and learning, and actually that's where happiness, and that's when you need to be able to, hopefully have the trust that your friends and other people around you can pick you up when you need it, but also you do the same for them. Yeah.
And that gives you real confidence in not being afraid to make a mistake. People are terrified to make mistakes sometimes in a sterile environment. But if you have that trust and that bond, you can be free to do that, and brings the best out in everybody.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I was brought up in Newcastle. I lived in Newcastle.
Daughter of how many siblings?
Pardon?
How many siblings? Parents?
Well, I had two brothers, much older than me. My brothers were called Bill and Jim, in their short version. And my father was also Jim, but had two other names as well. And my mother, Esther, my lovely mother Esther, she was fantastic.
What was she like?
Very gentle most of the time, not always. She was very proud of her Irish roots, if you like, a little bit more distant than one. Her father was born in Newcastle, I think, but was from Irish descent. And she was one of 11. But she was really a lovely, gentle person. She had me when she was in her 40s. Not a thing these days, but in those days it was unusual. But she was very encouraging and welcoming of my friends, and all through college as well. She was terrific. Everybody liked coming to our house, and she wasn't particularly well in her life, in later life, but she was terrific. My father was a very strong character. Raised eyebrow there, I see, but he came to live with us for nearly 10 years towards the end of his life. And he was, he'd spent a long time in the war. During the war, 6 years away. Spent a long time in Egypt and France and Italy. He'd learned quite a good element of those languages. Consequently, I was also taught little elements of particularly Arabic. I don't know whether I wouldn't dare even trying it now, but I used to be able to say, hurry up, goodbye, all sorts of things in that sort of sense. And he was very passionate about horses, and he'd been brought up with horses, having been born in 1903. And he would give anything to be if a horse was ill, he would be in the stables lying with the horse through the night to nurture it through. And
do you have a fondest memory of your mum and dad?
I have lots of them, but just really in a very mundane sense of way, but one that most people I think could probably relate to was if I couldn't sleep when I was younger, lying in, being cuddled by them and being sung to get me to sleep. And that was terrific, really, I think.
Yeah, I remember getting into bed with them when I was little.
Did you?
Yeah, and they had that house with the little electric heaters.
Yes. Yes.
And that painting you'd done that was always, I found quite scary.
Yes, everybody found that scary. I thought it was wonderful. And I got great praise from my tutors on that one.
Yeah.
But the thing I remember, as well was it's gone from my head now.
Do you remember what songs they sang to you?
Yes. Well, some of them were Irish lullabies from my mother in particular, but my father had a very good voice, and I can't remember. They were just gentle. I mean, I could remember them. If I could look them up, I'll try and find them. But when I hear them, I'm 2 or 3 lying in the arms of my parents being sung to sleep. And
do you like holding your grandkids, or did
I love
they're
holding
big now?
I love holding them, cuddling them, being with them. I'm very inspired by my grandchildren. I think they're wonderful. And each one of them has different strengths. Their abilities, their willingness to indulge me, their willingness to support me when I had no hair at all.
And it's grown back curly.
Yes.
Did you prefer straight or curly?
Straight, I think. Having said that, this is easier. Yeah. This is easier to manage. But and the fact that some of them can't stop touching my hair sometimes, as it is now, is nice. I just love them, and watching them grow and their abilities, and the fact that they don't mind that I watch them, enjoy them singing, taking the mickey of somebody else. It's nice, and all of them are different in a huge way. Many strengths in all of them, and I think they've all got bright futures, in my view.
Anything else to say while you're here?
I love my sons, especially my number 2 son, because you're here. No, you two have got strength as well. I mean, how good are you with what you've managed to achieve in life? And my daughters-in-law, I mean, they're just lovely, and I feel very lucky.
The One Thing I Learned podcast. One guest, one story, one lesson every week. Kind of lesson that stays with you. Not advice, not noise, just something true. Something gathered on the way. Something worth passing on. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And at theonethingilearned.com. Produced by Amelia Clement. Music by Benjamin Hallway from Stamp Productions.